Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on this beautiful Thursday evening. Thank you, Taylor, again so much for sharing your time with us. We're really excited to, have you here with us today to share a little bit about, your journey and your career, and we're excited to hear all about it. Everyone, please again, if you have the capacity to, show your video, we invite you to join us by doing so. If you have any questions throughout, you are also more than welcome to enter questions on the chat or unmuting yourself, raising your hand, using the reactions to ask any questions that you may have. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm super excited to introduce you all to Taylor Rockwell. She is a visual effects producer here in Los Angeles. She started her career in theater stage managing and since has she switched to film, and after unexpectedly falling in love with the visual effects process, she now contributes her awesome expertise in her career as a visual effects producer. So without further ado, I will pass it off to Taylor to kick us off. And again, thank you so much, Taylor, for being with us here today and everyone for joining us this awesome, beautiful evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carla. You guys, I'm so happy to be here. Troyette, thank you so much for turning on your camera. It is nice to be here. I'm super excited to talk about visual effects because it's what I love to do. I'm very lucky to love my job, and so I wanted to tell you guys about how I ended up finding it and what we do all day in visual effects. Oh, there's my cat. Oh my gosh, she's never on Zoom. Okay, that was very special. So yes, I do have ADD, ADHD, as many people may know. This is why I am really good at my job, actually, because working in film requires changing your focus every few minutes to whatever someone higher up than you needs when they need it. And so my neurodiversity has been a real asset in visual effects, which has been probably why I fit so well in there. Um, I started in theater. Um, I loved doing theater, stage managing and directing because I just love that live aspect of it. And I worked briefly in theater professionally in college, and there was just not a lot of money to be made in theater. And so I thought maybe I should switch to film since I'm from Los Angeles and I'm from a family of actors, actually, but I have no interest in doing that. And so I didn't know what part of film would resonate with me, but I just started doing internships in all areas that I could, like weasel my way into anyone I knew or any listing I saw online, and through a couple were through an internship through Santa Monica College, which is where I was going at the time, or maybe it was Northridge. I can't remember. Um, but um, I did internships in development, which is a lot of reading and writing, which was not good for my ADD brain. And I worked in a couple like agents' offices, and again, it was a lot of reading. That isn't what I want to do all day. But there are plenty of jobs in film that are a lot of reading and writing. I know a lot of people their first jobs out of college is sometimes script coverage if they like to read and write, which is something you can get paid for, to read a script and write a summary of it in a very kind of structured way. So that was one path that some of my friends took. And Others of my friends are technical editors. I just love to be on set, as I talked about, the kind of like theater connection there. And what I have found as being part of this visual effects department, which is on the movie almost the longest. Visual effects is on a movie almost as long as the director, longer than any other department, longer than the editor, and certainly longer than anyone that's on set. And that's because visual effects, just in case you're confused, because there is overlap. Visual effects is anything that is put in the movie after it's shot. And special effects is what it's referred to when there's an explosion in what we're filming and we do it live like that. Visual effects is everything that's added later. But because of that, because of the time and the expense of visual effects, we are involved at the very, very beginning to help figure out the best way to shoot the movie, the best way to approach scenes. Like, is this going to be cheaper to have a location we want or cheaper to have a specific background we want that visual effects puts in? How can we make everybody happy? And that's really what I love the most about visual effects, is that we work closely with every other department. So I also think that visual effects is a great place to start if you don't know what department you might be interested in film or television, because we work with the production designer, we work with the art department, we work with the costumes, we work, I have to tell on a big blue screen day, I've got to tell everybody no jeans, unless we've talked about it beforehand, because the jeans will just disappear into the blue screen. So it's thinking about stuff like that while you're shooting, watching as they're shooting to make sure that they're shooting the movie the way we agreed to and the way that is budgeted to do the shots later in post-production. So it's a lot of things to think about, a lot of things that are just kind of on my radar as the visual effects producer. And this department has two department heads. One is me, visual effects producer, and I'm I'm in charge of the budget, and I'm in charge of the schedule and all the logistics, helping figuring out how we shoot it. The other department head is the visual effects supervisor. And while they also help us figure out how we shoot it and the logistics, they are the technical and creative half. And so they are really the one that is in cahoots with the director to get this movie looking like the director wants it to look, to get it looking its best. And they're the person that knows how to actually usually they know how to do the visual effects shots on a computer because very often they've been a visual effects artist first before becoming a visual effects supervisor. Usually, a visual effects artist that is good at talking to people and interacting with people can be on a good track to become an on-set visual effects supervisor. Um, let's think. Let's think. Okay. Um, hmm. What else? Should I pause for a question? There's no questions in the chat. Okay. Um,
Can I
uh,
pose a question for you, Taylor? I was
Please.
really curious.
Yeah.
Um, how did you combat working in roles that, weren't so fun? I know you mentioned, like reading scripts wasn't something you necessarily enjoyed, but it was something you knew you had to do, because it would build your portfolio. So how did you go about potentially, working through roles that weren't that fun, but you knew would bring those skills that you would later use in any of the roles that you partook in?
Yeah, it's really, I mean, there's plenty of stuff at my regular day-to-day job that I don't want to do also, but then there's also the fun stuff. And so, just as far as like the internships, I'd made a commitment to work at that internship for X number of days, for X number of months. And I obviously I wanted it to go well and I wanted to do my best, even though I didn't like what I was doing, so that we could leave it in a good place. Uh, and uh, and I think I was successful with that. It was nice and honestly, being honest with people and saying, this isn't really my jam. People respect it because if I had someone in on my team that was like, this is cool, but I don't love it, then I would say, okay, how can I help you find something you love? And so I really learned so much from the internships because learning what I didn't want to do helped me find what I did want to do. Because coming out of theater, I had no idea really what visual effects was. And or that it was its own department, or that they're, on a movie for over a year. And I, the more, when I learned about it, I just kind of was trying things. And they're like, why don't you go up for this visual effects production assistant job? It's only supposed to be 6 weeks. And I went in for it and fell in love with everyone and just felt on even on the first day, I felt like, oh, these are my people. Like I feel at home here. This is my community. It was a really wonderful feeling when I finally found it. And then I realized what visual effects was during this first job. And I was like, oh, I've always loved visual effects because I'm obsessed with Jurassic Park and all things like the visual effects movies. Twister was a huge visual effects influence on me. I love Twister. That movie rocks, the original. There's just so many good visual effects things that I remember seeing as a kid and being so in awe. And then now getting to create those things has been really cool, very rewarding.
Thank you so much for sharing. And again, I want to prompt everyone on the call. If you have any questions, feel free to use the reaction and raise your hand or unmute yourself. Thank you, Taylor.
I
Of
have a
course.
quick question.
Yeah, hey.
How has AI helped you with editing and video editing, or do you even use it for editing?
Yeah, we can't use it for editing because we can't use it for anything generative yet because it has to draw on something, and all those some things that it's drawing on are copywritten and owned by other sources. So it's not usable yet. I know that some visual effects companies use AI to help uh, like pull references of like I think they used AI to give Harrison Ford the much younger face in the latest Indiana Jones. And I think it's that they like uploaded all of his films from when he was that age to a computer, and then the AI program picked out which faces they could use to put into the movie from his old library.
I see.
Um, so I know that visual effects companies are using it, but right now no one can generate anything with it yet.
Uh, do you think in the future they're going to be selling more into AI, or they're just going to?
It sounds like they are. Like Netflix, I'm on a Netflix movie right now and they're really pushing AI, but I mean, it's like I don't know how I can use it, but I know they know that it's the future, and so I'm
I
very
see.
I'm very reluctant but just because I don't really know what it is yet, and um but it's going to be a tool in the future. I just can't quite visualize how yet.
I see. Thank you.
Mhm. So I have some pictures to show you guys. So as I said, as a visual effects, I was first a visual effects production assistant, and then a visual effects coordinator, and then a visual effects producer, as I am now. And as a coordinator, I worked on a movie called The Avengers, and that was a very fun, crazy experience because it was kind of the first big visual effects ensemble movie for Marvel of its time. And so there was a lot of experimenting and playing and researching done on how we can make our movie the coolest, basically. And it was on Avengers. We shot it in 2011. That I was very closely involved in. Tell me if you have questions about this, in capturing the assets that are needed to build the digital characters. So I have to, as part of my job on every movie, arrange for photography and scanning, like 3D scanning, um, on every single costume, character, person, prop that would need to be duplicated in or computer generated later for the movie. And so very often I have to just do everyone and everything because usually when we're shooting the movie, we don't know, hey, someone's going to get a great idea halfway through post-production and we need this prop or something again. And I wish we could just put it in the background. Well, visual effects will have scanned and photographed it just in case, because we do a lot of things just in case. Visual effects is about planning scenarios A, B, and C and being able to carry through on any of those at any time. So yes, let me share this. So I wanted to share some pictures from building the Avengers. So here's our friend Mark Ruffalo. He is in a place called the Light Stage. This was built with, I think this one had probably like 200 cameras in it. and the new ones have even more because this is 2011 technology, so it just keeps getting better every year. And what this is a light bubble that we put him in. I can show you. Here's my assistant from the movie Peter inside, and you have to sit really still, and they shine these lights on you, and the lights make a different pattern and kind of recreate every potential lighting position your face might be in. And then they photograph it, and we have a reference of your face in every possible lighting condition. And this is how we do the face replacements on CG characters and how we can match them up so well to make them look so believable. So this is all to capture as a reference. Here's our friend Scarlett Johansson doing a no longer used method of asset capture, which was called MOVA. And it involved, I think there were 90 of these little cameras on a grid in front of her. And we took this UV paint and a toothbrush and literally just like flicked it on her face. So we have thousands of tracking markers so that the digital replication of her can be as close to the real thing as possible. Any questions on that? Good. Okay. All right. These are stand-ins, and also they're maquettes. That's the technical name, is a maquette, which is like a little statue proof of concept, and it's used as a reference. So I believe what we have here, oh my gosh, someone help me if there's a nerd on the call. I think we have the Mark III and the Mark IV suits here, and then I don't think this silver little one ever became a suit, but this was a day of camera tests when we brought in all these Iron Men to see which color of red we wanted to go with for the Avengers. And I believe we chose this middle one, which was Oxblood. All right, so on set, when the Hulk got hulky, when he hulked out, we needed something to represent to be his hands, because his hands are computer generated. And so when he punches somebody, we made these giant green hands that we would replace in post with the Hulk hand. And so this would give us a shot of one of those giant hands hitting somebody. Here's our stunt crew in their motion capture suits. These are, again, 2011 motion capture suits. They've changed a bit, and every place does them differently. But these are our Chitauri warriors, our aliens, just taking a break. And we wore masks because we were blowing things up that day, and it was smoky in there. Okay, so the two the two people that played the Hulk besides Mark Ruffalo are our friend in the mocap suit. Now I'm blanking on his name. I forgot his name. But the guy in the green is Green Steve. You don't ever forget Green Steve. And so Green Steve, we would after they shoot the actors doing everything, and we needed a reference of Hulk running through a scene, we would shoot it with Green Steve, and that would be our lighting reference for when we need to put in the CG Hulk. So lighting is the most important thing in visual effects to conquer, really, because your eyes know when something looks wrong, even if they don't know why it looks wrong. And so the more reference we can capture on set, the better. So we painted this poor guy, Steve, we painted him green. And then next to him is, Troy. That was Troy Brenna. And he was the motion capture performer for the Hulk. And then the last bit of reference that we shoot with the movie camera are these balls. And it's really fun because on set, when it's time to do balls, everyone gets to yell balls, and that's my favorite part. So we have a shiny ball for capturing all the reflections, and we have a gray ball for capturing all the shadows. And this was one of our PAs, Catherine, and at the very end of shooting with the actors will step out. And much like we did with Green Steve, we would have the balls in the film the balls doing what the eventual CG will be, and that's for even more lighting reference. I think that's it for Avengers. Let me stop and share a different one. These are from a movie I did called Bad Times at the El Royale. Where is it? Here we go. And this is an example of how we work with special effects. These are the blood packs from special effects underneath this guy's shirt. We've already torn away the shirt so the blood will come straight out because he was wearing the jacket over it. It's all just like food-based red corn syrup, basically, the blood. And so for this particular shot, this guy is supposed to be John Hamm, and getting shot with a shotgun in his chest, and they wanted it to be rather violent. And so these are the practical special effects squibs that they put on him, and then we will enhance it in visual effects, taking out any of the like rigging or fixing any of the fabric, and also adding blood to make it look even grosser if that's what the director wants. This is the an art department map of the hotel and parking lot that the El Royale was set in. And so this particular map shows you what's going to be built practically, what's going to actually be built by production. This was just literally just a parking lot in the woods that they built the front of a hotel here. These are the rooms, and then it's just parking in the middle. And so you can see with the highlight that the yellow and the blue are what was going to be hung, and then visual effects was going to fill in everything in pink. We would be responsible for adding that to any angles seeing that. And so here's our version of it that we built on a stage. And so you'll see that we have to replace everything above the roof. And then, oh, I didn't pick a very good picture for this, but here's, you can see the big green screen and the first level of the hotel that we built outside to match. So we had a set on stage where we could do the interiors, and then we had this set several miles away. This was all in Vancouver for exteriors. And then it's up to visual effects to marry the two together so that they always look like it's the exact same place. Let's see, I think I have one more that was just for fun. This is Snoop. I got to work with Snoop and I got to scan him, and it was very cool. And that's him in the scanning booth. It looks a lot like that first light stage thing, but this one is also cameras, but it's getting the 3D geometry of Snoop so that we can make him a CG vampire later. This was from the movie Day Shift. Okay, are there any questions? Which
We
role has
have, yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Taylor.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
there's a
someone
question in
who
the chat.
Thank you, Valerie. Yeah, as someone who's worked in multiple areas of visual effects, which has been your favorite? That is a good question because everything I've told you so far has been what's known as the production side, which is like the filmmaker side. Like I work for the studio, and having a role on the visual effects team is definitely my favorite because but the other option where I have a lot of friends is visual effects vendors, and visual effects vendors are the ones that I hire and give the millions of dollars to actually do the visual effects work, and then it all comes back filtered through the visual effects department to show it to the director and to guide them in the right direction. So I have worked at a vendor a few times and I didn't like it. And I honestly just think it's because I thrive on chaos and it was too much the same thing in an office job every day. And so being in production, everything's a little different every day. And there's a lot of things coming that you just don't expect. And I find that really enjoyable.
Feel free, everyone, to either chime in or join the chat. Meanwhile, I do have a question, with that following, you mentioned you really enjoy like the multitasking, and as you name it, the chaos. If there is a day you can look back to of what a not necessarily a typical day, because I assume every day is different, but of all the days that are different, what is a day that a quote unquote a typical day may look like for you, or your vision of chaos that you really enjoy? What would that look like?
It's always chaos. So that doesn't matter which part you're going for. But it's very different. Like shooting the movie during production is exhausting, and that is where you have minimum 12-hour days, usually a 14-hour day, and it's very hard on your feet, hard with stamina, and for that reason, I like you really want to work with people that are pleasant to be around, have a good attitude, and that's a huge part of it. Almost more than whether or not you can do the work. Like you can be trained to do the work, but can you have a productive conversation, and can you be proactive? So that's definitely part of it. And then in post-production, which is the phase I'm in right now, it's much different because the editors are editing, and so you're just trying to support them and get the visual effects shots in progress. And post is a longer part of it. It's usually 6 to 10 months long post-production, whereas shooting is usually just 3 or 4 months. And so during post, it's a little more structured. You have like scheduled review times with your vendor and with your director, and again, still working with other departments like music and things like that. So it's different in different phases of the project, but stamina and being pleasant to be around is a huge part of it.
Thank you for so much for sharing that. I think it's very important to be a good collaborative colleague in the
Mhm,
space. Yes,
mhm.
absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you. And then we do have a question in the chat. Is your work budget based, or do you get free reign to do whatever, however you want to do it?
I wish. I wish. I actually had a director that was very confused and really didn't understand visual effects and thought that when I needed more money, it was like for me personally or something, which was insane. But no, I'm as the visual effects producer, I'm in charge of the visual effects budget. And so whether it's 5 million, 20 million, 50 million, it's really disgustingly a lot of money. I have to decide how we spend it, and then there is oversight through the production, whoever's making the movie. So right now I'm on this Netflix movie, and so there's a Netflix chain of command whenever I want to spend money, but I have a good relationship with Netflix. This is my third movie with them, and I've known the executive a long time, so she trusts me. But at first, it's very like, what are you spending this on? Could you get this cheaper somewhere else? It's a lot of that back and forth, and I still do even now, like negotiating costs down sometimes, or seeing how I can get what I need if I only have X number of dollars. So yes, my whole job is very budget based. I have to know how much we've spent at any given moment, and how much we have left. So yes, good question.
Thank you. Anybody else have a couple questions? Feel free again to chime in, join the chat. In the meantime, I have another question. You speak so great of your role and how much you enjoy it. And I guess I'm wondering, when did you realize you wanted to go into your current field? Yeah, when did you discover that passion for you?
It
Did
was
you already
really
know?
No, it was on the job because I was just testing out all these different departments and aspects of film and post-production and pre-production. I worked for a reality TV production company, and all I did was log their version of, like, they were doing kind of a Jackass ripoff television show and then a dating show at the time. So all I did was just log tapes, and that was super boring too. But when someone said, "Hey, you might like visual effects. Are you detail oriented? Do you like keeping track of things? Do you love like scheduling and logistics? And I was like, I do. I love all those things. And so not knowing that visual effects was something that I was passionate about until I got there. And I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. This is so cool. And so it really was not until I found it that I knew what I wanted, which was really hard. You know, I was kind of an older PA. I didn't get my first PA job till I was like 25 or 26. Which at the time was older because everyone else was straight out of college, but I took longer to finish and longer to figure out what I wanted to do. And uh, so yeah, it's I didn't know till I got there.
Wow. And to go hand in hand, there's a question in the chat. Was there ever a point where you doubted yourself in your journey, and how did you overcome that?
The times when other people have doubted me is when I have let myself doubt myself, and I have always regretted it. I have never needed to doubt myself, and whenever I was early in my career, confident in what I was doing, but someone was not happy with it, it was so confusing because I knew I was doing exactly what my job was. And that's when I realized that everyone brings all their personal crap to work with them and takes it out on people at work. And so learning to not take things personally, learning that my only responsibility at work is my job, and that's where it ends. Like that's and not like taking care of people's feelings and not like worrying about anything in anyone else's department is one of my favorite things about visual effects. Like when we're on set, I'm not allowed to even touch like a power cord because the electric department is in charge of that. And so I really love how everyone on a movie has their lane and they stay in it, and together we all work together to build this crazy big thing.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. I know there's a couple more questions. One is, I know you mentioned doing a lot of internships. Did networking help you get where you are now?
Yes, networking in film is still very much a strong, very strong way to find a job. Um, And there's a lot of like, hey, I'm a PA looking for a job. And then I'll hear, hey, I'm a show looking for a PA. And so you just hear by word of mouth from friends of friends of friends. And that's how I've gotten a couple jobs. I've also been doing this since 2006 and have made some good relationships with certain studios. So I'm tight with the Universal visual effects executives and the Netflix executives and Sony. And so I like working with those people because they trust me. And uh, yeah, networking. I'm trying to think if networking specifically at the internships helped me because they help me. I would say they help me more to have an idea of what goes on during other phases of production rather than networking, just because I didn't have any interest in development, so I didn't really use them as a connection, but I certainly could have if I had wanted to keep going with that. And that's another thing about getting into an internship or a job, and just make sure people like you because then they're going to want to help you get a job later. I see another
Thank
question.
you.
How did you first get
Yes.
into the field or hire to get your first big gig? Was it difficult? This is a I happened to be talking to a woman who was a visual effects executive at Disney at a party. It was completely random, and I said, here's what I've been doing, all these internships. I don't like any of them. Here's what I miss about theater. Here's what I'm good at. And that's when she said, are you good at detail oriented scheduling, tracking? And I said, yes. And so I really went to that first visual effects interview not knowing what the work would be. And it took me several months to even understand what I was helping them do because this is such a technical field. Um, and so anyway, so at that party, this woman was like, I'm gonna get you into visual effects. And so she put me up for a visual effects PA job on a movie called Evan Almighty at Universal in 2006, 2005. And yeah, and I all she got me was the interview. Actually, all she got me was my resume on a pile. And from that pile, three of us were called in. It was it got down to between me and the nephew of the guy that ran visual effects at Universal. And I got the job. I somehow beat this Nepo hire. So all I can say is kill it in the interview. And I'm always happy to refer anybody for a job, because then it's up to you to get the job in the interview. Like I'll give you a good review, but you've got to get the job. And so that was I just clicked with the people hiring me, and I was only supposed to be on that job for 6 weeks, and they kept me for 9 months. So yeah, it was great.
Wow, that's a great story and back end, right? To getting yourself, there.
Mhm.
And with that, what is maybe some advice that you wish you knew as you were getting started, or that you recommend to, our students on our call and college students who are looking to prepare for, a career in entertainment or even in a similar field like yours?
Yeah. I would say that trusting yourself is a huge part of it. And also not being ashamed or embarrassed about what you don't know. Because I went into this, I went in not knowing anything. They said, can you do Excel? And I said, yes. And they said, can you do FileMaker? And I said, no, I have no idea what that is. And I was honest in the interview, which I know a lot of people aren't. And then it doesn't mean, just because you aren't experienced in something doesn't mean you're not going to get the job. I think the honesty of like, I don't know it, but here's something similar that I do know. So I know I have the capacity to work in that and the capacity to be taught. And I think going back to even the doubting myself question, it's like I tend to get mad at myself for the things that I don't know, and that's insane. And so I am trying to not get mad at myself for the things I don't know. And especially those first 2 years in visual effects, I had really no idea what was going on, and just learning and not being anxious about it.
Yeah. Did not knowing or being in the unknown at ever like cause any doubt in your career choice?
For sure. Yeah, because I was very frustrated at not understanding what I was doing. And it took me a long time to kind of figure out how visual effects works and like what I was doing every day. Oh, I was downloading submissions of visual effects shots for the supervisor and the director to review, and for the editors to cut in, and for everyone to see how they work in the cut and send back notes so that we can get another better version. And that's really what the day-to-day is in post-production. And so just knowing like there's a lot of moving parts, I'm not very technical. And so early on in my career as a PA and a coordinator, I had to download stuff and data entry and figure out databases and stuff like that. And that was probably the hardest for me, that I would get mad at myself for not picking it up immediately, which is now like insane, because when I hire someone, I'm like, don't worry, it takes a couple weeks to understand this. And I wish someone had said that to me. But yeah, just not getting mad at yourself for what you don't know, because there's so much we don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I feel that that's, great advice for our students on the call today. I think, a lot of times we get caught up on what we don't know, and, it's what do we bring to the table that we need to really self-value. And I really appreciate you sharing that. And you do talk about a lot of, your internships experience and what you did that ultimately prepared you. Can you talk a little bit about what you did outside of the classroom that prepared you for those initial internships, or what you recommend for students to start doing, or to think about doing as they start either their college journey or they're looking at applying for these entry level roles? Like, what should they do, or how can they highlight their skills?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I did not go to school for film. Almost every single one of my coworkers has. I think I'm an exception to a rule that didn't go to, I took a film class in college, but I didn't actually go to film school. What I ended up studying was communication rhetoric, not mass communication, but rhetoric at Northridge. And that was basically a major in arguing. And that was super fun and helped me with my communication skills a lot. And so I really had to change my college concentration to what I wanted to spend my time on. And so I found that instead of like an English degree, that this communication rhetoric was really a good fit for me. Because I love to talk things out. I just love to talk it out, hash it out. And so uh yeah, and I got my internships through college, so it was helpful that way. It was kind of a meandering route that I took. But
Can
yeah, I mean,
you
college, I'm very glad I finished college because yeah.
Yeah, and I'm curious too, like, how do you, you did a different major from a lot of your colleagues.
Mm.
How did you see that, come in play and for you to be able to shadow other skills, compared to folks who maybe did do film and, brought that background?
Yeah, people in film school have a lot more hands-on experience because in film school you get a camera and you go shoot something, and I had never done that. I still have never really done that. I have my iPhone and I like to post to the gram, and that's about it. But so many of my friends are so into the gadgets and the cameras and all the technical part of it. Um, what was the question? Sorry.
How were you able to distinguish yourself from those who did have a film background
Oh yeah.
compared to your major?
Yeah, all I was thinking of when you asked the question was just how they knew so much more than I did about film and film history and how, yeah, I really didn't discover what I liked about film until uh, honestly, like I just started noticing patterns and paying attention. And I was like, oh, I love this movie. Oh my God, wait, this director made this other movie. Oh, then maybe I'll like another movie that they do. And then kind of that has just kind of built on my like references for when people on set love to reference other movies and like movie nerds are very intense and people working in film love to one up each other with their references. So I usually can't even keep up and I just kind of stand there and smile, or I say I haven't seen it and then they'll go, oh my God, let me show it to you and then we can talk about it. And so that type of it was really like learning on the job. And so I'm trying to think, I don't know if I guess I made up for it just in my enthusiasm and interest because it's not that I didn't want to learn it, I just never had. So
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely important. Passion and bringing that out in the spaces that we share with others. Yeah, I love that. Thank you again, Taylor. I think that was great advice for everyone. Again, y'all, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat or, unmute yourself. Um, as we dwindle down to the last, 10 minutes, I'm wondering, again, I think, we're always kind of looking at different parts of our careers and, looking ahead. I'm wondering if there's still any goals or career aspirations that you have that you'd, like to still accomplish or navigate, in your career or, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky to do some really cool movies and get to work with really cool people and just being able to uh like in film when you're in a job like mine, you don't necessarily get to work on the movies that you would watch. Like I'm not a vampire movie fan, but now I've made a vampire movie, a couple of them, and now I know everything about vampires. And I like yeah, like I have a video actually that I wanted to show from a Fast and Furious movie, and those movies are not my jam either, but they are so visual effects heavy and so complicated. It was a really fun challenge. Um, yeah, bless you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And we do have a question in the chat. What's the most fulfilling part of your job?
I mean, it really all comes together at the end. It's a great question because you get some like pride when you see shots come back from the company that's making them and they look like they're supposed to look. And then you get to see it in the movie and the movie just is so like easy to watch and the storytelling is really good. And so it's it's not until like the last week of a movie that you get it with all the visual effects, all the sound, like all the bells and whistles. And so the most fulfilling part is watching it at the end after we've worked for a year or a year and a half and getting to see how it all works together. Because, for example, visual effects doesn't really watch anything with sound. There's no reason for us to have sound unless we have to put something in at a certain with a certain sound, like if there's an a character talking, or something CG that's going to make a noise. Um, oh, sorry, I keep looking at the chat and getting distracted and forgetting what I was talking about. What was I just saying? Carla, help.
Oh, the most fulfilling part of your job
Oh,
about when it all
yeah.
comes together.
So at the end of Avengers, I finally heard, like after we were done with the visual effects, this is the first time I heard what the aliens sounded like. And so I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like it makes it a real, living, breathing character. And so yeah, it's really the end when when it all comes together. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We have two questions. One is, what is something that you think that you want to do better, or you would have liked to know earlier if you had to do everything all over again?
I mean, we all wish we knew what we knew
Yes.
20 years ago. I certainly do. Yeah, I learned really everything I know about film on the job, and I think I was very lucky to be able to do that. And yeah, I think I would just want to give myself more credit, I think. Like, even as a production assistant, you are such an important part of the team because then the coordinators can't do their job unless you do their job. And then the producers can't do their job unless the coordinator does their job. And the executives can't do their job unless the department heads do their job. And so it's really the like understanding. I worked with a lot of PAs that didn't think that the job was very important, but after a while I realized that it is super important. We're like the basis that everything is built on. And so just knowing that everybody has such kind of an equal stake in making the movie, everyone plays a part. I wish I had understood. Like it's not just the director, it's hundreds of people making the movie. And then I see the mentor question. Did I need a
Yes.
mentor when I started? How did you advocate for it? Actually, the woman that hired me on my very first movie, I thought she was going to be my mentor, and she turned out not to be. And it turned out to be this very grumpy guy that used to run visual effects at Universal named John Swallow. And he was quite a character. And we were unlikely friends, but it was actually his nephew that I beat out for that very first job, and we still became very good friends. And he was my mentor for the first maybe like 7 or 8 years of my career, and he helped me get jobs. Because he wanted to work with me, and so when he had a position open, he would hire me, and so it was really a like, and I had a great relationship with him where I wasn't afraid to ask stupid questions. That's another huge part of visual effects and something I tell to my directors at the beginning of every movie, because everyone has a different level of visual effects understanding, and most people have no idea what it is, and even directors. And so I tell them there's no such thing as a stupid question, because sometimes you just have to ask it so that you can get to what the real question is. Like, I'm stuck on this question, but I can't get past it, and just talk it out. So yeah, so we would, he would answer my questions and connect the dots for me, and he was a really great resource.
Thank you, thank you, Taylor. As we approach the last, couple minutes, is there any advice that you have for, our students, today, or just in general to anyone looking to explore this career?
Yeah, this is a really weird time in the film industry because not much is shooting. And unfortunately, what every or fortunately, what everyone says is make your own movies. Don't wait for someone to give you money to make it. Figure out how to make it on whatever budget you can, because the people that will watch it will see, oh, they didn't have much of a budget, but look how smartly they did all this, and imagining how it could be translated to a bigger screen. So basically, the filmmaker kind of pipeline now, and this is more if you want to be a director, but also it's a good gateway to film is to make your own material, and then you kind of make like a short film that represents what your potential first feature could be or first television show or something. And so people, it's kind of like a calling card, and people can see what you can do, and that's a good way to get noticed, and to learn on the job. Um, and also just ask anyone you know that's in film if they have a cousin in film, and just get the word out. Like, get the word out that you want to do anything in film at all, and you'll end up somewhere. And it may be a department that you don't like, and that's how you'll find out. But when you're on that job, you'll meet all the other departments, and maybe you are in props for a day and you really like makeup or you really like art, and you it'll get you access to meeting other people. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Taylor, again for sharing your time with us today and for sharing your career journey. Really appreciate you. I know we're coming back in the sake of time and staying to what we promised.
Okay.
Again, thank you. I don't see Ali. Okay, let me see. Awesome. Well, I will